go to bed because you really want to wake up early in the morning and watch the cartoons. That's one of the biggest things that I remember from the 1990s is the cartoons. That's one of the highlights. Besides the TGIF, thank God it's Friday night because they had wonderful programs for Friday night, and that's one of the biggest nights besides Sunday night, which became known as the animation night. What do you call that? What they call it now on Fox on Sunday night, where they have The Simpsons and The Family Guy. And they used to have King of the Hill and a few other shows on Sunday night. So now they call it what do you call it? Animation Party night or something on the Fox 49 on Sunday. So Sunday's really big, but also Friday. And Friday used to be bigger. Now I don't really care. But back when I was younger, when I was about 5 years old in 1990, all the way until I was about 15 years old in 2000, those 10 years were really exciting, especially for TGIF. You're able to watch shows like Full House and The Dinosaurs and Step by Step and Boys Meet World and there's probably others, but I can't think of it because it's been more than 14 years now. Now it's 2014, so looking back to the 1990s, oh man, it was a long time ago. But my favorite memory is the Saturday morning cartoons because you have shows like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and you have Captain Planet. Those are two very exciting cartoons, but also the Power Rangers. And I would watch them. And they were on at different times throughout their career, which actually they're still making new Power Rangers shows. And so they've been on the air for like 20 seasons now. About 20 seasons now since they started in 1994. So they were on the air like 4:30 to 5 p.m. Like on weekdays, and then also like at one time they were in the morning, like 7:30 to 8 a.m. But then their most popular time, especially for new episodes, was on Saturday morning, like 7:30 to 8. And they also had other times too, like a lot of shows do, but Power Rangers was one of my favorite shows, and when I was about 10 years old in 1996, me and my family and friends, we made a 1-hour movie, a 1-hour film, all about the Power Rangers, and we call it like the second Power Rangers, because it was before they actually made the real Power Rangers film, which actually featured a child Blue Ranger, which is ironic because before they decided to have a little kid play the Blue Ranger, I played the Blue Ranger, and I was like 10 years old. It was just a few days before I turned 11. In February 1996, we made it on like the 1st or 2nd. I believe it was the 2nd of February on a Friday, and then so it was the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, about 5 different days or so to make an hour-long film. And I have some of that on YouTube, but I did it because of how much I love the Power Rangers. So my memories of the 1990s includes a lot of things that are out in the movies, in the big cinema, and also on the TV. Mostly on the TV since the TV's around more, and also the Nintendo, since we grew up having a Nintendo, and also like I would play with my friends, and we would play like Sonic, and Sonic was the second biggest, but my number one mascot for a video game was Mario. Since we had it in our house, first we had a regular Nintendo, maybe around 1990, and then maybe around 92 or so, we had a Super Nintendo, and so we were able to play the Super Mario All Stars and Super Mario World, and we were able to like get really close to beating the game, and then we started beating the game, and then I started beating the game myself maybe a few years later, maybe when I was like in 1996 or something, when I was like about 10 years old, or maybe a little older, maybe 9 years old, I started beating games myself, different Mario games, and maybe other games too, but mostly it is Mario games. So one of the biggest decades for me is the 1990s. It's only the second full decade that I have been to, been through. I've only been through half of the 80s, and now I'm going through half of another decade. So I'm, 28, and I'm turning 29 soon in this year, 2014. So obviously, the last decade of the 2000s is really big, and I could probably talk a lot about that. But let me tell you a little bit about the 1990s. There's a lot to talk about, and it includes the Y2K scare. So I thought about the Y2K, and I was like, hey, maybe it's the end of the world. But at the same time, I spent more time thinking about the future than I did about Y2K. I've heard about Y2K, and I thought, okay, maybe it's a problem, but it may not affect me. I got scared for like maybe a few minutes, or a few times I thought about it, maybe longer than a few minutes, but then I kept on going back to, it's not going to hurt me. It may hurt other people, but it may not hurt me. I'll be okay. I kind of thought about that, and then also, more often I would think about, what is my life going to be like when I'm 30 years old? I really thought about, that I would last until then. But, being born and raised as a Christian, not that I was brainwashed. My father would always say, well, you're brainwashed. I choose to believe in what I want to believe in. And whether you believe in Christ as the Savior and Creator of the world or not, you should think about whether you care about freedom. I should have the freedom to believe in Him. And I believe that Christ was not going to come back until maybe another 10 years. Maybe I'd have to be like somewhere in my 20s or 30s. And I would tell God, like, I really want to get married and have kids and have sex. S-E-X. Oh, man. Really? Yeah, really? I mean, I thought about that, and I really wanted that, and I really, wanted to be married since I was 8 years old and travel the world and help people, all those kinds of good things. And so I would pray, and I would cry a little, and I would say, I think things are going to be different in heaven. Like, maybe we're not going to be able to get married, after we die. Like, I really want to experience the things in the world, the flesh, what do you call it? The pride of life and the lust of the flesh, and things like that. It talks about that in 1 John in the Bible, in the New Testament. So I was thinking about the future, and I thought to myself that Y2K was not going to be the end of the world, or, like the Mayans calendar, which ends in 2012. That's not going to be the end of the world either. In case you're watching this, in case this camera goes back in time somehow, in some kind of experience, hey, it's not going to be the end of the world. You will be able to continue. So I'm a big fan of the Star Trek, and I saw the Star Trek Generation in the big screen on my 9th birthday in like 1994, and I would watch Star Trek The Next Generation on TV, and that's one of my favorite, I think it is my favorite show, favorite Star Trek show. My second Star Trek show is the Star Trek Voyager. So I really love a lot of different films like Star Trek and Star Wars, and I remember watching Spaceballs too, and I really like comedy and Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan, and I really like a lot of different things, and so I was introduced to almost everything except for maybe Britney Spears. I don't think I knew who she was until the 2000s, so she's not really a part of the 1990s for me. Maybe for you, if you knew who she was in the 1990s, she was around, like in the Mickey Mouse Club and different things like that, but I didn't really know who she was. I may have known about like the Backstreet Boys, and a little bit about Madonna and NSYNC, and maybe a few others, but maybe just a little. And sometimes, I've heard of the music, but I didn't really know their name. I didn't really know their names. And I'm usually really bad at the names, and still am to this day. The 1990s involves, this my childhood. Some of the best parts of my childhood, some of the fundamental parts of my life was in the 1990s, where I started learning how to talk better, communication, where I started going to I was about to go to high school. I started going to high school in 2000 after the 1990s, but I was homeschooled for all of the 1990s. And so I was developing my character, and I was going to the Awana and Olympian clubs in the 1990s. And one of my favorite things to do is every year in the summer we were able to go to our aunt and uncle's house in the coast in Warrington, near Astoria, Oregon. Oregon is a state above California and below the North Pole and Canada and the Washington state. So in between California and Washington is Oregon, and it borders with Idaho and almost Utah and the Pacific Ocean. So I was born, Forest Grove, and it was like an hour from Portland. But we would always go to our aunt and uncle's house. Jim and Karen Williams. Karen is my mother's sister. And Jim, he was a best friend of my father growing up with my father. They both went to the same high school, I think, and like in the bottom of Oregon, like Medford or Gold Hill or something, and they went to Umpqua Community College, which they also make Umpqua ice cream, and I love ice cream. So you can, I love ice cream. And Jim was the tall one, and my father, he's the shorter one, and he would always pass it to Uncle Jim. And so it was kind of like John Stockton to Carl Malone, the mailman, kind of like that, delivering mail. You pass it, and they dunk it. You pass the ball to the tall guy, and he makes a slam dunk or something. And so it was really, really exciting for every year going to our aunt and uncle's house. And I really looked forward to doing that. And then later I looked forward to doing going to camps, going to like Salvation Army camps as a camper, and then later as a counselor, going to Salvation Army camps, going to Word of Life camps. But it started out going to my aunt and uncle's camps, except there weren't actually camps. But it was we'd go to their house, we were able to go to the bees, go to the arcade, go see some movies. Which one year I wanted to see the Power Rangers movie, but we ended up seeing Apollo 13. I thought it was kind of boring at the time, but it was kind of exciting. But now looking back at it, I should have loved it, because now I'm much more of a Tom Hanks fan now. But at the time when I saw Apollo 13, I wasn't really interested in it. And at one time we were able to see the Tomb Raider film. Like the first Tomb Raider film was like 1997 or something. And there were a few different years around 1994 to 2000, where I was able to see a lot of different films in the cinema. And I would think that my family or my mother didn't have a lot of money. My father would have money as a landscaper, and sometimes he had other jobs too, but mostly as a landscaper, maintenance, gardener kind of person. He works every day, and I learned about a lot about hard work from my father, and a lot of good dedication and humor from my father and my mother. I learned, dedication, hard work, mostly from my father, and also humor from my father and also my mother. But also, I learned about a lot of bad things from my father too. And I feel like my father, he drinks at the end of the day. He works hard during the day, but then at the end of the day, he goes to the bar and he drinks and he gambles. And so you feel like he makes money, but then he doesn't really have money. So it's like, where did they get the money, or where did my mom get the where did my mother get the money to give me money so I can go to the cinema. I don't know. And would I take it back so that she could use it to do something better with it? I don't know. But I do know that I think it was a good thing that my mother was able to do those good things for me, and I was able to go see a lot of different movies in the 1990s. And I was able to rent movies from WizBank, and that was really exciting. And I was able to take my younger sister to the zoo in Portland for the first time. Me and her by ourselves. It might have been 1990 or so, or it might have been 2000 or 2001. It may not have been in the 1990s, but close, very close to the 1990s. If it wasn't in the 1990s. So I was able to grow up. I remember watching Batman and Robin and the Turtles movies. Like I saw Turtles 3 for my 8th birthday, or around my 8th birthday, and Hook. You know Peter Pan. There's a movie I believe was made from Steven Spielberg and starring Robin Williams, and I really was a fan of that movie, and it made me want to fly. When I saw Batman, it made me want to fly too, in a Batman kind of way. And I saw Jurassic Park, and I really wanted to run away from dinosaurs. When I saw that, and Star Wars, I really wanted to run away from the Sith, bad people, and fight people with lightsabers after I saw Star Wars. And that's usually what happens to a little kid like me, for example. You see something in a cinema, and then you come out, and then you want to see it in real life, and you start to believe in it, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. If you believe in Santa Claus, it's kind of disappointing because you may never ever see Santa Claus for real, except at the mall. And you may want to see Mortal Kombat. I remember seeing Mortal Kombat in the big screen too, I think. And you want to see the dinosaurs. You want to see the Jedi. You want to fight with lightsabers and see the big dinosaurs and run away and fly. You want to do all these different things that you see other people do, or you get scared of scary things that you see in scary movies, and you want to believe and you want to try. And a lot of times when we get older as adults, we tend to tell our children to not believe and not to try and not to do those things. And that could be very bad. I mean, I understand the good things about doing that because we want to give our children a sense of reality. And that's very important. However, it is more important that we give children motivation to go after their dreams and a passion and a drive. It's very important to have a drive, to go after your dreams like nothing else, like Michael Jordan went after his 6 championship rings in basketball, in the NBA. That's the National Basketball Association. Those things are very important. It's like a fire, but you don't want to let the fire burn out. You don't want to get burned out in life or in ministry. You really don't want that. And you don't want to burn out the fires of other people. And you need to consider that. You want to give people a sense of reality, but also give them a sense of love, too, at the same time. I'm Original Oatmeal. Keep it real, and eat your oatmeal.